a country in Eastern Europe, where the landscape feels like a complete map of the continent. In the middle rise the Carpathian Mountains, tall and forested, with railway lines threading through valleys, tunnels, and viaducts to connect Transylvania with the rest of the country. Around these mountains stretch wide hills and plateaus, home to towns and villages, where local trains link smaller communities. Romania's relief makes it one of Europe's most diverse and connected landscapes. But while the geography offered incredible potential for a strong and modern railway system, the reality turned out differently. The neglect of Romania's railway infrastructure is not just the result of age, but of long-standing indifference from the authorities and publicly funded institutions responsible for maintaining it. For decades, investment was delayed or mismanaged. Routine maintenance was ignored, and modernization projects were either abandoned or carried out only partially. State funds were often redirected elsewhere, leaving the railways with outdated tracks, signaling systems, and rolling stock. This continuous lack of care gradually pushed the network into a critical state, where trains are forced to run at reduced speeds, delays are common, and safety is sometimes compromised. Instead of being a backbone of national transport, the railway system became a symbol of institutional neglect and poor management. But that's about to change. After almost 35 years of neglect, and after often being pushed to the sidelines compared to more economically developed countries, real changes are finally beginning to happen. New investments, new trains, and modern infrastructure projects are on the way. Yet to truly understand what is happening now and what the system really needs, we first have to look back at how it all started and how Romania's railways reached this critical point. In the communist era, Romania's railways were transformed. Electrification began in the 1960s on the busy Bucharest-Brasov line, and by 1969, electric trains were running all the way into the capital. Through the 1970s and 80s, the network expanded toward Constanta, Timișoara, Arad, and the Moldavian cities, with many routes double-tracked and modernized. Romania also have a long history of locally built trains, but much of it has been outdated. In the 1950s and 60s, Romania began replacing steam with modern locomotives. For example, in 1960, the state received the first sulzer-powered diesel-electric locos, CFR Class 60, originally 060DA, built under license. By 1993, Electroputere Craiova had built about 2,490 of these LDE 2100 machines. Roughly 1,400 went to CFR, the rest to Poland and China. At the same time, electric traction arrived. The first Class 40, also called 060 EA locomotives, were delivered in 1965. This are 6-axle 5.1 megawatts Coco wheel arrangement machines based on Asia, a Swedish design. Over 1,000 of the Class 40, 41 and 42 family rolled out of Craiova between 1967 to 91, making it an icon of the CFR fleet. Other local designs filled out the roster. The LDH 125, also known as CFR Class 80 and Class 81. These are diesel hydraulics engines built between 1968 and 1976 for shunting and light line work, 633 for CFR and 263 for Bulgaria. While the 1930s Malaxa-built DMUs, known as Class 77 and Class 78, were composers of streamlined two-car sets made in the 1930s and 40s, which continued serving remote branch lines. Also, they were modernized in the 1970s. For decades, Romania also produced many freight wagons and passenger coaches. Astra Arad factory even manufactured metro cars and exported rail cars worldwide. In short, under communism, Romania built thousands of locos and stock at home, though by the 90s, much of that rolling stock was aging. By the 2000s, Romanian railways still ran many of these vintage trains. Apart from small second-hand imports, for example ex-French SNCF Z6100 EMUs reclassified as CFR Class 58 in 2006, the main modernization came from new DMUs. In 2008 to 2011, CFR bought 120 Siemens Desiro Classic DMUs known as Class 96 for regional service, nicknamed Blue Arrow, giving Romania the largest D0 fleet outside Germany. Meanwhile, rail liberalization after 2000 brought dozens of private operators like GFR, Servtrans, Cargo Transvagon, DB Schenker, and DB Cargo Romania, Transferoviar, and many more onto the network. With investment scarce, even modernizing the aging EA fleet became urgent. As so, Softronic gained increasing attention in the press after its establishment in 1999 in Craiova, with the goal of modernizing aging locomotives and continuing the city's 50-year tradition in electric locomotive manufacturing. From the very beginning, the company aimed to bring advanced engineering and innovation to Romania's railways. In 2002, Softronic helped found its sister company Softrans as a strategic partner for developing and testing new technologies. By 2003, Softrans had begun operating freight services using EA locomotives, marking Softronic's entry into running trains as well as building them. These early years set the stage for Softronic's evolution from a locomotive modernizer to a designer and exporter of whole new locomotive classes. In 2008, Softronic unveiled the Phoenix, its first completely new electric locomotive. The Phoenix was a 6-axle Coco wheel arrangement locomotive with 5,100 kilowatts of power, essentially an upgraded Electroputer Class 40 design, reimagined with modern electronics and motors. Engineered for 25 kilovolts AC rail networks, the Phoenix incorporated advanced traction control and modular construction. This milestone demonstrated Softronic's in-house design and manufacturing capabilities, turning Craiova's historic workshops into a source of new locomotives rather than only rebuilds. The first Phoenix units went into service in Romania's national railways, showcasing Softronic's technical expertise on the rails. Building on Phoenix success, Softronic introduced the Transmontana series in 2010 as a purpose-built heavy freight locomotive. First time for the passengers as a test bed. The Transmontana is also a Coco 6-axle unit, but with 6 asynchronous traction motors and 6,600 kilowatts total output. Notably, it is a dual voltage design. It runs on 25 kilovolts AC as well as 3 kilovolts DC, allowing it to haul heavy trains across multiple European countries. By the mid-2010s, Softronic had fully mastered bi-system locomotive technology, and with that milestone, the first Transmontana exports followed. For the first time, these locomotives were delivered outside Romania, entering service in Hungary. In 2013, the company completed the Hyperion project, a 4-car passenger train set capable of operating under both 25 kilovolts AC and 3 kilovolts DC electrification. But that wasn't the only milestone. In 2014, Softronic released Transmontana 017, or version 2.0, featuring a more aerodynamic shape and significantly upgraded technical specifications. This new version represented a major leap in performance and efficiency, combining innovative aesthetics with cutting-edge technology. In 2018 and 2019, Softronic began delivering Transmontana locomotives to Sweden's Green Cargo, proving the design's success in heavy-haul service. This partnership culminated in October 2020 when Softronic and Green Cargo signed a framework agreement for up to 100 Transmontana locomotives. That landmark deal signaled confidence in Softronic's Craiova-built locomotives and greatly expanded Romania's role as a rolling stock exporter. In 2022, Softronic further expanded its international portfolio by signing a contract with Austria's LTE Logistics and Transport for 5 new Transmontana version 3.2 locomotives equipped with ETCS train control systems. These locomotives were built to operate across Romania, Hungary, and potentially Austria. Under this framework contract, Softronic will supply advanced dual-system Transmontana's modern versions to LTE. Together, Green Cargo and LTE partnerships highlight Softronic Craiova's growing presence in the European freight market. Other smaller contracts followed in 2022, including one with United Railways from Bulgaria, formed after the Transmontana demonstrated its efficiency. Softronic delivered two new Transmontana locomotives, numbered 063 and 064, to United Railways, marking the first modern asynchronous locomotives in their fleet. By this point, private passenger operators had also gained considerable momentum compared to the state company. Operators such as Transferrovia Călători, Interregional Călători, Astra Transcarpatic, and even Softronic with its Hyperion EMUs began to capture the majority of passengers, taking over contracts on heavily traveled routes. Meanwhile, CFR Călători lost market share year after year. On the freight side, as things weren't bad enough, CFR Marfa, the state-owned cargo operator, fell into serious financial trouble, buried under heavy debts. The National Agency for Fiscal Administration, ANAF, was forced to seize part of its locomotives and freight wagons due to unpaid obligations. By then, it was clear that a structural reform of Romania's rail sector was necessary. During all this time, CFR was on the verge of insolvency. Projects existed, investment ideas existed, but money was the problem. In 2020, the European Union launched Next-Generation EU, a $750 billion recovery instrument after the 2019 year. Through the Recovery and Resilience Facility, RRF, Romania gained access to grants and low-interest loans, provided it delivered reforms and sustainable investments. Romania's National Recovery and Resilience Plan, PNRR, was approved, and the country took the opportunity, with billions allocated to green transport. Railways were placed at the heart of this program, as the EU required at least 37% of all spending to target climate goals. The major changes started in 2022, when Romania's National Railway Reform Authority, ARF, signed a landmark contract with Alstom for 37 brand-new Cohesion Stream long-distance trains. Funded through the large infrastructure operational program, this was the first major passenger train acquisition in Romania in more than 20 years. The first train, designated Regio Express Interregio 01, arrived in Bucharest on December 4, 2023, marking the start of a new era. A second train followed on May 31, 2024. Testing began at the Făurei Railway Test Ring, the country's premier proving ground for new rolling stock. During European Mobility Week 2024, the second train set, Regio Express Interregio 002, was officially presented to the public, while still undergoing homologation with ARF. By November 20, 2024, Romania's first Cohesion Stream entered passenger service. Branded as Interregio 16001 and Interregio 16002, it connected Bucharest and Brașov. The Cohesion units are equipped with ETCS safety systems, air conditioning, and modern passenger amenities. However, early feedback highlighted firm seating, narrow spacing, and a limited number of sockets, with no USB Type-C ports. A reminder that modern design still has to meet passenger comfort expectations. Nevertheless, more units are scheduled to arrive through the end of 2025, gradually entering service across Romania's intercity network. Recently, the Regio Express Interregio 005 train has arrived in Bucharest, and it is to carry out the necessary 2,000 kilometers tests and final reception before entering the service. In December 2023, the government finally signed the EU-funded Modernization program, PNRR, to rebuild and upgrade Romania's fleet. The project covers 75 electric locos and 139 coaches. 6 local firms won contracts. Softronic Craiova will rebuild 19 6-axle EA series locos into new Class 481 Lima electrics, and Reloc Craiova will rebuild another 19 into Class 482 Elasmo electrics. Meanwhile, 2 workshops in Brașov will rebuild 17 4-axle electrics and convert 20 diesel shunters into battery electrics. On the passenger side, CFR Grevita, Electroputere VFU Pascani, and Remarul 16 February Cluj will between them refurbish all 139 coaches, installing new seats, air conditioning, accessible toilets, and a fresh white and blue livery. And while the Cohesion units and the modernized rolling stock mark the beginning of a new multiple-unit era in Romania, the country has also turned its attention to acquiring modern electric locomotives from abroad. So, in January 2024, ARF signed a contract with Alstom for 16 Traxx MS3 locomotives, valued at almost €155 million, financed through the National Recovery and Resilience Plan also. The Traxx MS3 is a multi-system locomotive capable of operating across Europe. It features a bogie configuration with a top speed of 200 km per hour, though in Romania it will run at 160 km per hour on routes such as Bucharest-Constanța and lines that will support such a speed. With a power output of 6,000 kilowatts, UIC couplers, and the ability to haul 16 passenger cars, it is tailored for long-distance express services. The first locomotive left Germany in July 2025, arriving at Făurei test ring for dynamic tests. It was formally unveiled at Bucharest North Railway Station on August 7, 2025. Just 1 week later, on August 14th, it reached its design speed of 200 km per hour during trials. After final adjustments and livery application in Germany, the locomotives are expected to enter service in April 2026, with maintenance secured for the next 20 years. Romania is no stranger to Traxx locomotives. In 2012, CFR partnered with Hungary's MAV Group to lease earlier Traxx units. These powered international services Budapest-Keleti and Bucharest Nord, as well as domestic services to Constanța, and even special pilgrimage trains with their final appearance came in October 2023. Major large-scale acquisitions began in 2022. That's when the Coradia Stream contract was signed, followed by Softronic's renovation of older units, then also Traxx 3, triggering a significant upgrade in Romania's passenger train fleet. But smaller acquisitions and modernization efforts did take place before and around that time. Let's not forget, in early 2024, ARF signed a contract with Polish manufacturer PESA for 62 Regio commuter electric trains, worth over €640 million, plus a contract for 20 long-haul Interregio trains starting from 2026. Although Romania's railways are no stranger to modern units introduced by private companies, whether from domestic sources or abroad, such as the CRRC Sifangs FEMU, purchased by Astra Trans Carpatic, OBB Taurus, Vectron, or Smartrons, the speed of the rolling stock matters little if the infrastructure cannot support high-speed travel. Fortunately, massive infrastructure works are underway with the support of EU funding. Hundreds of kilometers of railway lines are already being modernized or are currently in the process of upgrades. For example, the historic Bucharest-Giurgiu line, Romania's very first railway, is now undergoing modernization, with Alstom awarded the contract. The project includes electrification, as well as the installation of modern signaling and ETCS safety systems. So are key corridors like Bucharest-Craiova and Cluj to Oradea. Once the works are completed, trains will no longer crawl at just 30 or 50 kilometers per hour on deteriorated tracks. Instead, average speeds are expected to rise to 100 and 160 kilometers per hour, cutting the travel time in less than a half, which is a huge progress for Romania. In the past, track modernization projects were carried out slowly and inconsistently, often dragged out for years due to lack of funding and interest. Progress was so fragmented that it was difficult for people to notice any real improvement. But now, with substantial support from the EU, Romania is finally achieving the progress long desired by its citizens, a first real taste of the benefits that large-scale modernization can bring. By 2026, CFR's fleet will look very different. Dozens of sleek, new 6-axle electric locomotives, classes 481 and 482, along with emission-free battery shunters and modernized 4-axle units, will roll out of the factories in Craiova and Brașov. They will be joined by modernized and newly built passenger cars, as well as state-of-the-art EMUs and modern Traxx locomotives. All of this will run on hundreds of kilometers of upgraded railway, brought up to 2025 standards. And while some countries in Europe already operate trains at speeds above 300 kilometers per hour, Romania and its people can take pride in the transformation underway. It marks the most significant change witnessed by the post-communist generation so far, and it will remain as a symbol of victory and progress, a milestone lasting long enough to be remembered as proof that, after all these years, yes, Romania still can.